Hallo und willkommen zurück zu Pillars of Eternity. Wir hatten jetzt hier den Quest-Fortschritt für die Jägerin abgeholt und können dann auch schon wieder weiterziehen. Waffenverzauberungen, die hinterlassen einen Abdruck auf der Minikarte. Jo, dann bleibt hier nur noch Dyrford Village. Was war eigentlich mit dieser... Saints War. Klibian Rilak. Ich nehme an, dass das dann hier sein wird. Also, wir reisen jetzt dahin. Dauert 24 Stunden. Wie lange dauert das noch? Lang genug. Dann reisen wir mal. Hier wird es wahrscheinlich jetzt auch erstmal wieder trivial einfach werden. Das war halt Teil der Bäcker-Beta und dort war man Stufe 6. Find someone in town who knows about the ruin. Was wir jetzt als erstes machen werden, ist die Jägerin wieder rauszuwerfen. Und das dürften wir hier in der Kneipe machen können.
I just want to find her. Surely even you can understand that.
We're decent folk, my lord. Perhaps you should leave and check the wilds.
Well met, friend.
Food and Drinks. Wobei, ne. Die kann erstmal... Wir haben jetzt wieder Zugriff auf den Stasche. Das kommt weg. So.
Hail and well met.
Du fliegst da raus. Du kommst da rein. Hallo. Accept.
Well met, friend.
He grunts in greeting. Still on your feet, eh? What was your exchange with that nobleman about? He looks up from polishing his tankard and glowers at the lord. Folk around here's decent. They mind their own business. You want to stick your nose in? Go talk to him yourself. I have questions about Dyrford. He runs his rag around the rim of the mug. Ask, do you know anything about the Anguithian ruin nearby? What I know is it's best avoided. I don't serve to anger the Glen Fathens by stomping around their sacred grounds. If you've got to satisfy your curiosity, talk to Beordmar. He is in the temple to the northwest. Tell me about this village. Walk from one bridge to the next and you've seen it. We're quite hard-working folk. We keep to ourselves and don't take to being pushed around. He glares at the well-dressed man standing off the side. Used to be a castle here, built by some family of Adrian Thanes back when the Empire first came. Only one tower still standing, and that's part of Tygil's shop now. Sid, that bard by the fire, could spin you the yarn if you're so inclined. Who lives in Dyrford? Not many anymore. Hard to keep people around when everyone here's a birthing Hollowborn. But we got a few who stick around and do business. Tyrgil's the leather courier. Handuna crafts potions, and Winfirth trades in general goods. Rumble's a pig farmer, or was anyway. Tell me about Tyrgil. He's a courier. Treats leather and oder sowas. Keine Ahnung, wie man es ausspricht. Treats leather and makes armor and a few other goods with it. Problem is, the smell of tallow and deer shit tends to put people off their foot. And his shop's right next door. What Hendon's story? A lady is a clever hand with potions and poultices. Got herself into trouble with a nest of worms, or so I heard. Her cart's on the east end of town. And Winfrith? Been around even longer than I have. Nice enough fellow, but never could find his way to the end of the sentence. His shop is across the square. Something happened to Rumble's pigs, I take it? Damn ogre carried them off. Now he squeals more than his herd ever did. He shrugs. It is rotten luck. Let's go back to my previous questions about Dyrford. He runs his rag around the rim of the mug. Ask. You said you don't see many travelers? 'Cause not. Why would they come here? We got bandits on the road and ogre in the forests. As that yapping fool Rumble tell you. Worse yet. Hasn't been a healthy child born here in over a year. Most kid that came here is just passing through. About that ogre. You don't hardly see him this close town. Ogres and kids don't mix well. Ugly bastards, but they're smart enough to know that much. You want to know more? Talk to Rumbald, his farm southwest of here. Never mind, I want to talk about something else. Goodbye. Biomar. Sits.
Greetings.
Greetings. Rettet stands by the fire, tuning her flute and plucking its strings. She hums snatches of a melody as she goes. First time at the Dracogon. Normally I'd have a song ready, but I haven't quite worked out this tune yet. I'm writing some chants about the founding of this inn. Say, you interested in story? I haven't finished the chants, but I could tell you about it all the same. Sure, let's have it. It was built in the time of Hadrian's rebellion. An Adrian lady, Thanu, once had a keep here. One of the towers still stands, but the rest is said to be buried under the village. Anyway, she stuck to the side of the Empire, and a contingent of Duke Hadrid's Knights of the Crucible helped the farmers and colonists in the area turn her keep to rubble. This inn was the first building that sprang up from the ruin, built with some of the same bricks the colonists had pulled from the Lady Thanu's castle, they say. Supposedly, the quarterstaff of her chief wizard even got lost in the construction, mortared into a wall or nailed under a floorboard. Anyway, the inn was supposed to be a heaven and a meeting place, while the locals built their new town. Ja, und ich weiß auch schon, wo das Ding ist, weil ich das in so einem Beta-Becker-Video gesehen hatte. Wobei wir das sehen würden, nachher. Go on. The Woodians are an ornery lot, and the more these new neighbors met, the more they argued. They realized they didn't agree on much beside ousting the old lord. The biggest divide was over the Glenfathens and their nearby ruins. Hadrian's Knights and their supporters wanted to keep the peace, but a group of misfits with more anarchic leanings that had formed in town wanted to go after the tribes the same way they'd gone after their lord. Soon the villagers were fighting with each other as much as with the Adurians. In the end, memories of the Broken Stone War and the War of Black Trees were fresh enough that the Duke's soldiers won the day. Most of the other villagers came around eventually, but some of the court troublemakers left to join the front lines of the War of Defiance, and others, I've heard, found their way into the Guided Compass, the most forward-looking of the Glenfarthing tribes. I don't know if I believe that part myself, but it makes a good story. She points to the east wall. There's a portrait of one of the chief rebel-rousers and his rival in the peacekeeping faction. Someone's idea of a joke. I don't think they were particularly amused. Das Bild hier. I want to hear about the Broken Stone War. That was the first major conflict between the original Edirran settlers and the Glenfarthans. Happened 3 years into colonization when some farmers knocked over an Adra menhir that was part of an Ingwithian ruin. The war didn't last long, but it spread quickly and claimed thousands. In the early weeks, most of the colonists didn't even realize there was a war going on until the Glenfarthing raiders hit their villages. They'd been small, spontaneous skirmishes between the colonists and the locals before then, but this was organized, and it was the start of decades of violence between the colonists and the Glenfarthans. As you can see, Dyrwood's full of history, even in little villages like this. Tell me about the War of Black Trees. It started back in the colonial days, almost 30 years after the Broken Stone War. Even though isolated conflicts still broke out between the settlers and the Glenfarthans, both sides had officially agreed to peace. Edrang Hadred, Edmeth's father, was a Gref at the time. As part of peace negotiations, he'd signed treaties prohibiting Edirran colonists from looting within ruins. However, he'd been unable to outlaw the use of captured Glenfarthans as slaves. What's a Gref? A Gref's the governor of a colony and is subservient to the Edirran Emperor. The early leaders of the Edir colony in the Dyrwood, including Edran and Emeth Hadred, were Grefs. At the start of the War of Defiance, Edmeth Hadred declared himself Duke of an independent Dyrwood rather than a Gref of the Emperor's colony. It was the same term used for the leaders of the newly independent Valian republics. Anyway, we haven't had a Gref since. I see. Indeed, the taking of Glenfarthing slaves had continued to be a source of conflict. It came to a head when Imperial agents, aided by certain earls in the Dyrwood, began looting the ruins again. See, the Empire had never actually agreed to Hadred's treaties on the matter, and the recent secession of the Valian republics likely left them eager to weaken Hadred's position. The looting sparked a brutal slave uprising and guerrilla campaign among the Glenfarthans. Edrang Hadred was too old to lead forces into battle, and so he sent his son, Edmeth. Edmeth made a costly but effective decision that ended the war faster than anyone could have imagined. He burned the forest near the Iskdeien River to keep the Glenfarthans band from retreating. Thousands of Glenfarthans died, and the Edmeth repeated his scorched earth tactics in the following months. He wore down the remainder of their forces. To this day, over 150 years later, there are still sections of the Dyrwood where the trees are nothing but bare, charred trunks. Farewell. Okay, nächster zum Reden. Hier können wir einmal machen. Step back! Step back! The man wears Ager-style robes, simple but elegant. His fine leather shoes look like they were made for padding around indoors, yet they're caked with mud. He yanks at a lock of hair twined around his silk-gloved finger. His fine features are etched with anxiety.
My child is out there. Do they not understand?
My lord, we're doing everything we can. Unfortunately, these villagers...
Beasts take them all. I don't care how you do it, but find her.
Yeah, I heard you're arguing with the innkeeper.
A petty, small-minded man. Just like the rest of them around here. I've been paying him an honest fee for board and bed, and yet he can't be bothered to stir himself to concern for my Alice.
Actually seemed angry at you.
People from these backwater villages take offense for sport. You have to but show up with a full coin purse and they'll hear insult in the jingle of your step. They forget that Duke Hadret came from the privileged classes, as did all of the other earls and lords who financed the rebellion they're so proud of. I've asked around, but nobody in this mud hole has any concerns beyond their swine. They turn my men away like beggars and seem downright pleased to be of no use. But you're not one of my soldiers. And you look like you're used to getting your hands dirty, if you don't mind my saying so.
Na, aber sichi. His guard leans in. My lord, Harrond raises a hand to silence the man. If you find her, he nibbles the thumb of one silk glove. Tell her I won't be upset with her. She can come back and all will be well. I just want to make sure my Elus, my child, is safe. Nothing in the world is more important to me. I'd like to ask a few questions about your daughter.
Elise. Of course.
Describe Lady Elise. She's a striking young woman, bears more resemblance to her mother than to me. She has auburn hair and delicate, well-bred features. She must be, 28 or 29 now. Tell me about her disappearance. We'd stopped in Dyrford for a few days. On our 4th evening here, I was making plans to continue our journey. Lady Alice, Namen habe ich schon wieder vergessen, Alice, was feeling unwell and went to bed. When I retired, a couple of hours later, I found that she had vanished. None of my men had seen her go, and no one at the inn knew where she was. Since then, my people have been combing the village, but we've yet to find a clue, and the locals have been no help. Why did you and Alice come to Dyrford? It was merely a stop along the way to Einar's Rest. However, she took ill shortly before our arrival, so it seemed prudent to allow her a few days to recover. What's in Einar's Rest? He frowns as if about to protest, but he gives in with a sigh. Lady Alice has reached an age where it is prudent for her to marry. Given this legacy business, I can't let her fertile years slip by, nor do I want her womb to fester in the prestige of so many hollowborn. It seems there would be more potential suitors in New Hiomar or New Yama. You think I haven't considered that? Arranging a suitable match is difficult. The best prospects for my child lay in Einar's Rest. Where's the rest of your family? Surely they wouldn't want to miss your daughter's betrothal. Lady Harrond is ill-suited for travel, I'm afraid, and unfortunately Alice has a few other close relatives. My sister and her husband, Alice, aunt and uncle of course, have been visiting Alice these past months. He rubs his knuckles, and as for siblings, Alice has none. My wife has only given birth to hollowborn since Alice, that is. I see, but going back to the daughter... Okay.
I'm Lord Nestor Harrond of Defiance Bay. My family has been prominent there since Imperial times. Our primary estate is on the outskirts of Brackenbury, but we have holdings in New Hiomar as well. Those went to my sister and her husband.
Goodbye. Search Dyrford for information about Alice's disappearance. Ah, okay, dann ist das das, wo man hochklettern kann. So, das war das Ding, was Survival gebracht hat, oder? Nein, war es nicht. Das hat es Survival gebracht. Vielen Dank.
Yes. Have you news of Elise? Of course.
There are better roads along the coast. Why wouldn't it have been easier to follow them to Einar's Rest? If I thought that, I wouldn't be slogging through the forest, would I? He waves a hand. The main roads are clogged with people fleeing one way or another to try to escape. Waitwin's legacy. It would be difficult for a caravan like mine to pass without incident. At the time, it seemed prudent to move quietly along the back roads. Vielen Dank für diese nützliche Information. Ich kann meine Dame wieder anziehen. So. The portrait depicts a man and a woman dressed in agile garb that would have been in style a century ago. The heavy frame has been battered and the plate that once bore the patron's name has been scratched out. They share a passionate embrace which seems at odds with the disgust on their faces. Pace. Hello, Pace. What are you doing in the kitchen? Think I'll get you sorted out with food and drink? Okay, dann... Moment, hier unten haben wir noch nur einen Tisch. This table has been scarred and stained from decades of use. Gehen wir mal hoch. The Orlan hovers by the window, peering out of it every few seconds. As you enter the room, she watches you carefully, her hand hovering over her stiletto. She cranes her head to peer behind you. Anyone follow you? Who sent you? What are you talking about? The man, leaning against the wall, glances out of the door and nods to the Orlan. The hand over her weapon relaxes, but she's still watching you closely. Some old friends from Defiance Bay are looking for me. We're not exactly friends anymore. If you catch my drift, I'm just trying to lay low and mind my own business. Know what I mean? A boss. And Amoa looks at the Orlan and jerks his head at you. Alright. She raises a hand to the Amoa before turning back to you. My friend here thinks you could maybe help us out. Now I'm sure you're a busy man, so I'll make it worth your time. She flips you a few coins. Just go take a look around in town. Come back and let me know if the coast is clear or if you see any suspicious figures. You're pretty suspicious. What is this about? She scratches the back of her neck. I may have got myself into trouble with some powerful people in the Defiance Bay. Powerful criminal people, I suppose. It was bound to happen eventually. I'm a thief by trade and it's hard to do my kind of business in the city without crossing them eventually. Now I'm just trying to put some distance between us. Find anyone skulking in a corner and cackling maniacally. Very well. Cat and mouse. Gone around Dyrford Village for Nifir. Fr. It's not him, don't worry.
Greetings.
Greetings. Where are you running from? How's it look out there? And see anything suspicious? I'd rather not get into it. Suffice to say, I angered the wrong people back in Defiance Bay. Do you know anything about Alice Herrand? That girl everyone's looking for? She was already missing by the time I got to town. I'm still looking around. I'll be back later.
If secrets whisper here, I shall listen for them.
Au Mauer.
Your thoughts must flow deeply indeed.
Gehört niemandem, kann man mitnehmen.
Nothing is closed to the perceptive mind.
Fling. Und
Do your eyes see what mine see?
da ist der Stab, wie erwähnt. Guildmaster's Stuff. Increased Reach. Minor Spellbind Restore. Minor Endurance. Grants. Gut, ist ja... 4. Naja, weg damit. Reach out for the soul. The glass of this window is broken, warped, knotted planks have been nailed over it. Ja, hier ist nix. Können wir wieder runtergehen. Und dann schauen wir uns noch draußen um.
I'll see what I can find.
She's been missing for days. You people can't keep stonewalling us. Beschränkungen. Hat sich niemand drin versteckt. Okay. Keine finishes escorting supplicant and returns to the stronghold. Das ist ja supi. Steht immer noch eine 4. Können wir auch nicht mehr mitreden. Gehen wir da mal rein. Eine Mühle. Sieht auch schön aus. The mill slowly grinds away at a throw of grain.
Do your eyes see what mine see?
Mhm. Ist jetzt allerdings nicht so spektakulär. Kann man mit denen reden? Nö. Dann gehen wir mal nach Nordwesten. How long do we have to stand out here? Madrath. An elf idles by the road, watching the village across the river. He nods as you approach, and the cold figure standing near him falls silent. Greetings, friend. A slow smile forms as he eyes you. I've heard of you. Word has it, you've been busy in Defiance Bay. He draws closer. I'm busy too, and eager to finish my business and get back to the city. What business is that? Haven't you heard? There's a murderer on the loose, said to have gone mad with grief and strangled a dozen healthy children when her own was hollowborn. He nods at the figures with him. We've come all the way from Defiance Bay to bring her to justice. So why are you standing around here? He nods across the river. She's hiding out in the village. We'd go in after her ourselves, but the problem is, she knows our faces. There's no telling what she'd do if we saw us coming, and we'd like to avoid any further unnecessary bloodshed. He leans closer. Her name's Freier. She's an Orlan. We want to get her out of town so that we can deal with her cleanly. She knows we're looking for her, but if someone were to convince her that it's safe to leave... If she's a mass murderer, why didn't the Duke send the Crucible Knights after her? A look of distaste flickers across his face. It's quick, but you catch it. The powers that be want to keep things quiet for obvious reasons. Better not cause plus of certainly better not startle her into doing something drastic. I think I've met the woman you're talking about. Excellent. Then go back to her and tell her you didn't see anyone looking for her. Got it? She told me she was on the run, but the rest of her story was different from yours. Domöne. Of course it was. He looks at the crowded figures standing nearby. She's got nothing to tell. She's not going to tell you she's a child killer, is she? Just, he makes a broad waving motion toward town. Go back, find her, and get her to come out. Leave. You remind me who I'm looking for. An Orlan woman named Freier. I don't know exactly where in the village she is, but there aren't too many Orlans around here. What did Freier do exactly? She was responsible for the murder of all those babies in Defiance Bay. Remember, terrible thing, but we'll make her pay. Alright, I'm also looking for a woman named Alice Harrand. Have you seen her? Afraid not. I've just been watching to Freier. Okay, damit könnten wir mal noch diese Attack-Option aussuchen.
Light, flame and sound. We'll keep to ourselves.
Raschel, raschel. Arbeiten wir auch mal gerade ab.
Keeping quiet.
Keeping quiet. So, dann können wir mal gucken, wo es hier nach Norden noch geht. Nirgends. Unerwartet. Ich hätte doch damit gerechnet, dass hier im Norden noch eine Zone ist. Jo, dann gehen wir da auch mal rein. Kelby, Harbinger Beordemar.
And what does the flame reveal?
Flames dance in mist, scattered offerings, keys, coins, and the tiny skulls of birds and mice are merged in the melted and hardened wax. Hello, Kelby. Talk to Beodmar. No one trusts me with anything more than lighting
Out
candles.
with you! I already told you what.
The old man.
Sorry. I thought you were one of those ruffians.
Meine Leute haben alle die Spezialisierung. Ada grunts in disgust. These times we live in.
How may I help you?
What happened to you?
I never saw their faces. Strange hooded men asking about those ruins. Cleoban Relag. Most of the brigands who come through here asking about the ruins are looking for a few ancient trinkets. But these people knew the name, and they were in a hurry. They wanted to know where Cleoban Relag was. I tried to keep it from them, but I couldn't hold out forever. I don't know what they were up to, but it can't be good.
Adolf looks at you frowning, and that does sound like the Aladdin key, doesn't it? The old priest nods politely. Is there something else I can help you with? Can you tell me where to find the ruins?
The Glanfathan tribe that guards the ruins will kill anyone who trespasses there. And they'll retaliate against us too, if history is any indication. We've had too many fortune seekers stir up trouble of late. If I'm to tell you, I'll need to know your reason for wanting to go.
He folds his arms and stares at you with one eye and skull. So, this is where I say, go into the ruins and I'll kill you. And that's when you say, Hiravias. I'm a watcher and you're no match for all of us. And we've got a good reason for this. And then I give up trying to argue with you and leave you to dig your own trespasser's grave. And I'm only being half metaphoric. We sometimes make Drywoodians dig your own grave before we kill you. When the kids hear about it's a fabulous deterrent. A dangerous plot is unfolding here, and I've got to stop it.
If that's the case, then we may already have trouble headed our way. I'll have to take you at your word. You'll find Cleoban Relag here. Whatever trouble you find there, please end it quietly and try to stay out of the ruins.
Have you seen Lord Heron's daughter? I'm afraid not, Lord Heron's. A man already asked me, and that was the first I'd seen any of his party. He holds a hand to his heart. Wherever she is, in this life or another, I hope he takes comfort that your soul is with Bareth. Tell me more about Dyrford. Folk here tend to keep to themselves, as they do in most towns this deep in the Dyrwood. They're suspicious of travelers, but with all the brigands and refugees moving through the area, who can blame them? People in town say the hollowbone problem has been especially bad here. It has. Cities and villages all over Dyrwood have seen hollowbone, but Dyrwood hasn't seen the birth of an unaffected child in years. Most of our people have moved on to other villages in search for hope. And those who have stayed behind aren't the same. Children promise a future, you know. People change when you take that away from them. This is a temple of Bereth. What can you tell me about Bereth? Bereth is the most universal of all the gods. It oversees portals and cycles of all kinds, even life and death itself. Under Bereth, an ending is merely a passage to another beginning. Bereth has many representations across time and across cultures. Around the Dyrwood, you'll commonly see it depicted as the Pellet Knight of the Usha. The Glanfathans, however, know it as a Bevnan. I anew, and anew I Bevnan. Tell me about the Pellet Knight. She's one of the strongest manifestations of Bereth, but a familiar one nonetheless. Stories describe her as a gaunt knight in black armor with black eyes, black hair, and pale skin. She demands an impossible toll from travelers who have tarried too long on her lord's road. Some challenge her only to slay themselves in the process. Who is the Usha? Kid have written stories, songs, and poems about Usha for centuries. Sometimes he's folk, sometimes dwarf, and sometimes merely a walking skeleton. He never speaks, but the but he guides the way to death and the next life. He also creates the circumstances for the wayward to stumble into their own graves. I've never heard of Bevnen. I knew and anew Bevnen. It means life in death and death in life, respectively. You see them as two skeletal figures, one a male and one female. Explorers have found them carved opposite one another in doorways, but I know of no particular legends that speak of them. Thanks for the information. Of course, Bereth was once more widely worshipped in this area, but it is a silent god, he smiled sadly. These Tales people find themselves in the need of clearer answers. Farewell. To Kliaban Rilak. Dann gehen wir aber erst später hin. Hast du jetzt was zu sagen? Nee. Dann schauen wir uns hier mal weiter in der Zone um. Ah, okay, ist doch im Norden. Muss man vorher bloß von wissen. Gut, gut.
They shall see nothing while I see much.
Piglet. Da ist ein Pflänzchen. Dyrford Crossing. Mhm.
They shall see nothing while I see much.
Okay. Step back.
Keeping an eye out.
Da ist nix, da können wir Pflanzen noch holen. Speichern wir mal. Jo.
That's fragrant.
Was? Tuggles Curierie. Ah, hier haben wir noch. Potions for sale, potions and oh. A young woman leans against the wagon. One arm and one side of her face are covered in bandages, with raw, rippled flesh showing underneath. A minty, tangy scent wafts her from her dressing. She smiles painfully. Just ventured into town. I am about to dry on some of my stocks, but you're welcome to have a look-see. Actually, I'm looking for a missing noblewoman. Oh, that lord's daughter. She was a new shade of green when I seen her the other morning. Chatting with Trigger, she was just outside his shop. She points at the crumbling tower. You're talking about morning sickness? Was she pregnant? She sighs. And worked into a state about it, she was. That girl was so sick she didn't even notice. Trigger's stink. I offered her some herbs to take care of the problem. Thought it might save her some trouble with her old man, but she wouldn't have it. Okay, the plot thickens. What was wrong with her? She tugs at a bandage. No offense, but I hardly know you. I am not one for gossip, and I certainly don't want to cause a poor girl any trouble. Lord Harold said she was from travel. She laughs. That weren't no road sickness, trust me. I know it when I see it. Thanks for the information. She adjusts one of her bandages. Anything else I can do for you? I've got some handy ointments, if you're braving the roads anytime soon. You had said that your supplies are limited. What happened? It is the damn roads. Can't reach none of my suppliers. So I'm stuck with whatever I can scrouge up in the wood. Deercap, riverweed and the like. That's well and good, but most potions require something stronger too. Trollskin, vesselbone, what have you. And then there's the really rare ingredients. Things you'd never be able to afford and let alone find on your own. What did you find? Henduna winces at the rest of the story, comes trembling out of her. I've been keeping an eye on a drake's nest east of town at Dyrford Crossing. The beast stayed just long enough to lay a clutch and moved on. Thank the Sky Mother it wasn't a full-grown dragon. She looks at her bandaged arm and grimaces. Fresh eggs are much more useful than the ones that get passed between merchants or left in nests for weeks or more, and that clutch looked to be at its peak. Thought I'd see about getting an egg, but I didn't realize so many of them had already hatched, or that young worms were so territorial. I could get an egg for you. She keeps her gaze steady, but you see hope kindling in her eyes and twitching at the corners of her mouth. I sure hope you're not leading me on. I don't think I could stand getting burned again. She bites her lip. If you really mean to go after it, I'd certainly pay you. Just remember, big as they are, dragon eggs are fragile, and there's a lot more that I can do with a whole one. Tell me again about the dragon egg. It's in the nest of a perched in a cliff on the east end of Dyrford Crossing. That's out in the wilds just east of here. I'm sure there are others elsewhere, but the one at Dyrford Crossing is just the age I need. If you head out that way, be careful. The place was crawling with worms when I went out there, and I can't imagine they've gone anywhere else. How did you get burned? She turns her face to the ground. By the flame, how bad does it look? Just say it. I know you'll tell me straight. It looks like it hurts. She laughs ruefully. That's a mighty soft way of putting it. Da ist unser Achievement unlocked. I told you about my run-in with the worms. I reckon you put the rest together already. What's wrong with the roads? A noise of disgust rattles from her throat. Brigands, looters, you name it. The gods may be hollowing out our babies, but it's grown folk that's rubbing out the rest of us. People are scrambling to Defiance Bay because they hear there's healthy births there, and all those refugees and abandoned homes attract desperate souls like flies on dog shit. Show me your wares. She steps aside. Sure thing. She shelves of her cart contain jars, vials and bundled paper packets. Ja, ist nichts, was wir brauchen können. Blood Legacy. Get the dragon egg. Nest Egg. Was? Achso, search Dyrford for information, mention that it was pregnant. Gehen wir hier noch rein. Wobei ich dann auch hier erstmal was? We'll talk about this later. Get back to the dice. I'll take care of our customer. Aha, Japan. Gut, mit denen werden wir dann beim nächsten Mal reden. Hier mache ich erstmal wieder einen Schnitt und sag bis dann.